Now this speech might be one of the most personal stories I'll ever tell in my life. Today I'll speak about pressure in one of the darkest times in my life. People always ask me how I fell in love with the game of lacrosse. I always tell them this story. It was truly a beautiful day in 2009. My family and I had driven up to Foxborough, Massachusetts to see the Final Four for lacrosse. The final day was Memorial Day, which had so much more in store for me. Long story short, I saw Syracuse beat Cornell 10-9 in overtime. What I saw that day was a series of miraculous plays that allowed Syracuse to win the game. During the trophy ceremony, I heard a song from an Irish band called U2 that was called Beautiful Day. From that day on, I knew I wanted to be a lacrosse player. In life, you'll know when you want something. When inspiration meets passion, obsession is born. Born from two Ghanaian parents, I'm the youngest of four boys. I would say my path has been more peculiar than most American families. Having all older brothers who all went to boarding schools such as Governor's Academy, Trinity Pauling, and Westminster School, my two oldest brothers who played Division III lacrosse at Tufts University, where my oldest brother AJ would win 2 national championships and the other Alec would win another national championship. However, after going to a third straight national championship game and inevitably losing, the head coach and his staff would decide to leave Tufts for an even better school called Brown University. The head coach would poach my third and last brother Adrian, who was a high school All-American and the 17th nationally ranked player in his class, who was originally committed to Notre Dame. Growing up, my family and friends always had high expectations for me since I was the last born child. People would always ask me questions like, are you going to be just like your brothers, or are you going to be the best out of all your brothers? I could give you numerous tales about pressure that my family put me through. For example, the time I scored only 1 goal in a tournament against rising juniors as a rising 8th grader. Sometimes I had so much pressure on me, subconsciously I would tell myself to play badly so my father would be disappointed enough that he wouldn't watch my other games. I would do that because I knew other great Division I programs were coming to watch me play, and so I wouldn't have so much weight on my shoulders. It always felt inevitable that I would follow in my brother's footsteps, since I was always around the game. Growing up, lacrosse was my first love and nothing could compare to it. People were always asking me why I would wake up at absurd hours like 4 or 5 in the morning to play lacrosse on the turf. I think Cristiano Ronaldo puts it best. He states that dreams are not what you see in your sleep. Dreams are things which do not let you sleep. If you want to be the best in your field, you have to be getting up and working hours that your competition isn't willing to do. If you don't believe me, you can ask Mr. Downs or Mr. Morrissey. They both saw me every morning. I was madly obsessed with the game of lacrosse and progressing my skills for the next level. Ever since I saw UVA beat Yale in the national championship in 2019, I knew where I wanted to go, and I knew that was the school I wanted to go to. I always felt it was a perfect academic and athletic fit for me. I knew if I went after the defending national champions, other great schools would follow. My plan proved to be correct, as my dad once told me, shoot for the moon, even if you miss, you'll land among the stars. All that hard work and effort I was putting in and day out, paid off. I was able to email my highlight reel and get some attention from a few college coaches, such as Duke, UNC, Yale, Dartmouth, UPenn, Michigan, Johns Hopkins, and many more, all encouraging me to go to their recruiting camps. I couldn't go to some of these camps because it was too expensive for my parents when it came to traveling and hotel costs. However, I was able to get a response from my dream school, UVA. The head coach, named Lars Tiffany, responded back to me saying, we are looking to add 3 to 4 more men to our class of 2023. We plan on doing this next year, late summer and spring and summer of 2022. We will be watching Alec. However, God and life had a different plan for me. I remember this week so vividly because this was the week where my life fell apart. It started with a broken phone screen. Following that, the next day I went to the bathroom and I found out I had lost a huge clump of hair due to stress. Next, I suffered my second concussion within a span of 3 weeks. Finally, when I called my mother a few days later to let her know my condition and to ask for money for McDonald's, she informed me that my Auntie Tina had passed away. That week caused me to spiral into anger, sadness, and resentment when I attended prom, since I was unable to control the outside circumstances. All those mixed emotions made me feel like I had lost the joy I saw in life, since it was all taken away from me. I remember crying after I got prefect because I was having trouble remembering who the other prefects were. There was no other way I could express my emotions. Sometimes crying is the only way your eyes speak when your mouth can't explain how broken your heart is. Although last summer was one of the most painful summers I have been through since my mother and I were sleeping on the floor due to a gas leak and some of the gas seeping into our furniture, I would start to see life from a different angle. Last summer, I would spend most of my nights alone. I entered a place where midnights became my afternoons. Nonetheless, since I was sidelined from lacrosse, I would take walks to waste time, which allowed me to ponder and gain new knowledge and perspective that I was closed off to because of lacrosse. I came to an understanding maybe God was trying to show me that there is so much more to life than lacrosse, and that I should start thinking of a life without the game of lacrosse. I came to a new inspiration of wanting to work in Silicon Valley after college. That summer, numerous amounts of D3 coaches reached out to me, in particular my brother's head coach from Tufts University, who wanted to talk to me and potentially recruit me. I couldn't find it in my heart to steal another kid's recruitment spot just because of the familiarity of my last name. I decided to take the regular college admissions route, and I was eventually accepted into Denison University. Sometimes in life, you have to play the long game rather than the short game. Discipline is choosing what you want most over what you want now. After going on my second trip to the hospital within 3 days for my heart 3 weeks ago, I came to the stern realization of all the bad things that had happened to me over the past year. I remember Nurse Griner telling me that there's a chance that there's nothing wrong with your heart. However, I thought, what if there is something wrong with my heart? I thought of all of the chances I've missed out on in life. I came to the conclusion that sometimes you just have to trust God and His plan. On the front screen of my phone, I have an image of Neymar Jr. looking up into the sky, and it reads, "One day you'll see why God made you wait. Trust Him." I think there's a Bible verse that we should all keep in the back of our heads. "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you a hope in the future." Jeremiah 29:11. There ultimately ended up being nothing wrong with my heart. It was just beating at an abnormal rate for a week and a half. Lastly, I think this community will lift you up when you need it most. Over the past year, I've taken some gratitude in my relationships with my friends and Millbrook itself. For example, the positive impact Lucius Gibson has had on my life because of his goofiness. I remember there was a story that Luca told me about biology class with Mr. McKenzie. Mr. McKenzie asked the class if anyone knew who discovered evolution, and Lucius answered back with Frederick Douglass. Or the time I was sitting alone with Sophia Grace during dinner, and Lucius walked by, and he said, "My fault. Was there an old school email or something? I didn't know. Was tonight supposed to be date night or something?" I remember responding back, "Something is seriously wrong with you, my brother." Another story I have, it was during Pomfret sign making here in the dining hall, when I went around asking girls, "What are your thoughts on melanin?" And a good amount responded back saying, "Melanin? Oh my gosh, I love that stuff. It makes me fall asleep so quickly every night." Finally, one of my favorite moments here was when Mr. Botchway had my screen repaired last year during that rough week that I experienced, when my parents couldn't afford to fix it. In conclusion, what I want you to take from this story is that it's okay if you don't continue to follow a predestined path that you set out on when you were younger. It's never too late to switch your life around and follow a different path. When following your own path, please keep these quotes in the back of your mind. You can't conquer what you don't confront, and life shrinks or expands into one's proportion to one's courage. Trust God, be kind to yourself and one another. You may never know what another person is going through on a day-to-day basis. You'll never walk alone in life as long as you have hope in your heart. One day your golden sky will appear. Thank you and have a wonderful afternoon.